Welcome to MythBusters for this, the 20th day of October, 2020. And Tuesday, it's good to be back in the studio here with you and broadcasting live to all of the people who are watching in our various groups and on Voiceover Coaching over at Facebook. And these also will all be shared in a playlist over at YouTube as well. So if you don't see them here, you can see them all there in case you missed some of them. But for those who are watching right now, welcome. Good to have you. The subject of the day is, how often should I change my voiceover demo? And people's opinions vary on that. Some people think it's a good idea to change them up frequently, and some people think that you can wait. Where do I fall? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. If you have some comments during the feed, feel free to leave them in chat. And I'm going to primarily focus on the presentation so that I don't get myself too distracted. And then at the end of the presentation, after I wrap up, then I'll address all of your comments and questions in chat. And please do include them because I love to hear from all of you. So how often do I need to change my demo? Well, first of all, let's talk about what a demo really is. What does a demo do? Does it represent you as a snapshot of your current abilities? Does it represent you as maybe a little better than what you're capable of because you were coached by someone through the creation of the demo? And if someone were to say, okay, do what you did in the third clip in the demo, you'd have to say, oh boy, I hope I can. They kind of told me how to do that when I was recording the demo, and now I'm not real sure if I could still do it. In that case, it's almost a demo becomes a misrepresentation of your current abilities, and that can be an issue sometimes. But theoretically, what a demo does is it shows your current range of skills. So your demo might contain, depending on what you do well, a hard sell announcement or narration or commercial, something soft sell, something narrative, something imagey, character voices, telephone message voices. You can have all kinds of different categories, as you know, and that doesn't mean also that it all has to be in one demo. You may have multiple demos, and that actually opens up an interesting kind of a hydra of heads here, or of snakes on the head, because the question then becomes, what demo would I update if I did update a demo? Or should I be updating all of them all the time? Or just one or two, or my main one, or however you want to look at it. So the question becomes then, why and under what circumstances should you update? And I believe that the material in your demo is fine for as long as it represents your current status as a voiceover person. If you hopefully have improved over time, then there will come a point where your demo is outdated, that it represents your skills from months ago or a year or more ago, and no longer represents your current abilities. Maybe you have developed more finesse as a voiceover person. Maybe you've picked up on additional styles. This is something you can do your whole lifetime. I continue to add new styles to what I can do by practicing, by listening to what other people do and trying to imitate those styles, and so on. Another issue can be if your equipment has changed, and we'll talk more about that as well. So some things to consider. How long has it been since you did your last demo? And really, honestly, how different are you? Are you really very different than when you did the demo? I can tell you that in my own case, having been in voiceovers for 45 years, you reach a plateau, at least to a degree. You reach a plateau. You will continue to improve, and I believe, I hope, that I am continuing to improve, but in some respects, I have plateaued, as far as where my most dynamic changes are going to come, I think. So how different are you really since the last time that you did a demo? What about your equipment? Is your mic different now than it was before? This can be a real big deal. Let's say that maybe you came from a radio background, and when you first got into voiceovers, you were using a dynamic mic. A dynamic mic is the type of mic you find most at radio studios, and it has a little more of a boomy, round sound, not muffled, but it kind of starts to lean almost toward that, and you have to equalize sometimes with software or with equipment to compensate for that a little bit. In my own case, a dynamic mic was too round for my voice. My voice needs, because it's kind of round to start with, the microphone needs to be something that can pull out more of the high end and the harmonics. And so at one point I did switch in, 2011, something like that, from a dynamic mic, which I'd been using dynamic mics all the way along, to a condenser mic. And then eventually to another condenser, which is the one I have here, the Neumann. But the demo, if I were going to present a demo that had been recorded during the time when I actually was still on a dynamic mic, and then later people were to, say, hire me based on that, they'd be getting a kind of a misrepresentation of what I would currently sound like if I did a voiceover for them, because the tonality would be different. The dynamics would be different. And so if your mic has changed, I wouldn't say that if your interface box has changed, I don't think that would have a huge effect. But if you're running through a preamp, generally I don't recommend it, but if you are running through a preamp, that can certainly affect the sound, even if you're using the same microphone but a different preamp. Is your room different than it used to be? This is a consideration for sure. If you used to record in a closet and now you are in a whisper room, or if, in my own case, just a relocation of myself in the room has made a certain amount of difference here. Not enough in this case to justify a change in the demo, but think about those things too. Were the acoustics different when you recorded the demo? Did you used to record, if you were a radio person, at the radio station, and now you're recording at home? Well, that's a totally different dynamic. The room could be very, very different sounding. And the question then is, whatever those changes have been, would it be enough for people to notice the difference if they listened to your demo and then you did a voiceover for them and they went, gosh, this doesn't sound like the same thing? So there are two things I think especially that can be gotchas. One is if you are recording with different gear so that the tonality is different or the room is different. And the other is if when you did the demo, you were coached through the demo to do things that you couldn't by your own self do, where in both cases they misrepresent what you can currently do with your present equipment and your present abilities. And the third, of course, would be if you have improved dramatically since the last demo, in which case there's a good justification to do something new that shows your improved skill set. One of the things you can do, I think, that would be useful in drawing that kind of a conclusion is to share your old voiceover demo and then maybe some new clips on Rate My Voiceover, which is really the purpose, the reason I created that group. It's to get perspective from other voiceover people who may be able to tell you whether you have improved or not. Maybe they'll say, gosh, I think your older demo was better, or whatever it is. But odds are, if it's the typical person, you will have improved in your environment, in your equipment, in your delivery, in your style, in your finesse, in your voiceover abilities generally. And so present both, do some fresh new clips and share them up there on Rate My Voiceover. That's a group at Facebook. And then at the same time also share your old demo. And maybe put them side by side. Okay, maybe do one long recording. Say, okay, here's my old demo, and then here's my new demo. What do you think? Am I improving? And should I be thinking about it? Am I far enough along to justify the work and or the expense of doing a new demo? Last time we got together, I talked about whether a demo is something that you need to do through a professional third party, or whether it's something you can do yourself. And I think that we kind of concluded that unless you're at the stage where you're making enough money to hire someone, I would not recommend that you go out and actually pay someone to do a demo for you if you aren't making enough to pay for it. Okay, so I think that's kind of a good kind of a measuring stick to go by. So ask yourself, how much am I making? And the other thing is, not everybody charges the same amount. And it's not as though if you don't spend $2,000-$3,000, you can't find someone that can help you create a better demo than you could do on your own. So ask yourself, okay, well, how much am I making? Can I afford $500? Can I afford $200? How much can I afford to spend? Can I spend $1,000? Can I spend $2,000? Ask yourself, okay, based on how much I have or have not improved, can I justify the cost of creating a new demo, especially if I'm going to hire someone else to do it? Now, if it's a situation where you're actually producing your own demo, if you're doing your own thing and your own demo creation abilities have advanced to the point where you can put something together, and let's just face it, on the most basic level, all a voiceover demo is a series of clips that have been cut and pasted together. And you can get fancier about it. You can add audio, music, you can add sound effects, you can add effects. You can punch it up with dynamic processing and things like that. All of those things are possible for you to do yourself, if you've got enough skills. But there will come a point where maybe you've done the best demo you're capable of on your own from a production standpoint, and you also wouldn't mind if someone else, a third party, were listening in and saying, trying to draw out the best you that they can, not to try and turn you into an artificial demo that is better than what you can reproduce on your own. But by working through this other person, you can draw out more of your abilities and you can showcase yourself better by taking advantage of their technical superiority. Maybe you've reached the end of your own demo creating abilities, and at this point you would benefit by tapping into someone who's a professional, who really knows how to do it. They've got the chops for this. The other thing is, you have to ask yourself, do I have the gear to do a serious demo? And in a lot of cases, the gear we'd really be talking about, since we already have the microphone theoretically that's going to do a good job for us, is software. So if you are going to go with a pro, how much does it cost? It can cost hundreds or thousands. It's not going to cost $10. Maybe there's somebody on Fiverr that would do something like that, but I would not recommend that route. I offer services on the hundreds scale, depending on how much we have to do. Yeah, but you can easily and even justifiably spend thousands on a demo. Again, depending on what your budget is, how far along down the trail you are as a voiceover person. I don't think it can be justified when you're young and starting out, have no money, have no prospects of absolute guarantees that you're going to be successful. Then I think that it can be kind of a large expenditure going out on kind of a limb. If you would like to know more about creating demos, I've got a course that I think might be helpful to you. It is the Gig Winners, it's called Gig Winners. It's a course that you can get off of thegigdoctor.com, thegigdoctor.com. It's right on the homepage there. I think it's the third item down on the list, and it is really useful stuff. We've brought together some of the really fine, high-end demo producer people from across the country for this, reaching from the Midwest to the coasts to Canada. We've got a super lineup, and these guys were very generous with their time. So if you would like, it's $75, and you can get that over at thegigdoctor.com. It's called Gig Winners. And again, I want to mention, as I have been mentioning each day, that the Fiverr and Upwork Voiceover Lounge is a super resource for people who want to just get together and kind of chum with each other, get to know other people in the profession, especially those who are marketing themselves through Fiverr and Upwork, or are interested in finding out more about those. And I would welcome you. You can meet Lizzie the Lounge Lizard there, our mascot, and I would love to have you in our group. That is it for today's session. Stay tuned following the session here as I check for any comments or questions that you may have in the group conversation here. But in the meanwhile, I'll sign off officially, and thank you for watching today. We have another session coming up on Wednesday, October 21st, and we'll do them every weekday all the way through the end of the month. Plenty and plenty of myths to bust, and I hope this one has been helpful to you. I'm Dane Scott.